So the spirit that brings me things steals his things. And so he says he doesn't believe in ghosts, but then he recognized also that this happens all the time. Well, the house has a just to the point that even one of the families that lived there for 10 years, they came in and they're like, oh my God, it still smells. Well, I'll go up into my bedroom at night and it smells like the Jackson house. And so my husband will even he goes to bed before me, he'll go upstairs and be like, oh, it smells like ghosts in here.
And welcome to
What We Don't Know.
That's true. We don't know anything. I'm Mike.
I'm Peggy.
I'm Melissa.
We are going to venture into another subject of things we don't know about. And we're going to talk to Elsie Lodde from Bethany's Home Sweet Haunted Home in Jackson, California. And you guys ready for that?
Absolutely ready.
All right, buckle in. Let's get Elsie in here right now on What We Don't Know. Well, hello, Elsie.
I'm sorry, guys. Sorry to be a hot mess here. I swear to God, I'm not usually bad.
No, it's pretty much as advertised. You told me that. So.
I guess I did, but I've never had to do this before. So, I've been on many podcasts, but this is the first time I've ever had to leave my neighborhood. So thanks for that, I guess.
Glad we could be of service.
You can be a first for me too. So there you go.
Peggy, do you wanna start things out?
Yeah, of course.
All right. Go ahead.
Elsie, I was super interested when I was looking at your website and recognized the name of the town. And I have a childhood friend that I've known for over 35 years who lives in Jackson and whose family owns Rosebud's Cafe on Main Street.
Okay.
So we have a little bit of a connection there.
So Ty or Megan?
Ty's uncle Mike.
Oh, okay.
So his sister owns Rosebuds. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've never met Ty because he was born after I left California. So we all know each other from California.
Okay. You, I would think that you would be young enough to be more in that contemporary group. So,
yeah, I think so.
Not really.
Mike's the baby. Yeah, well,
that's the nice.
He's going to start with me already. Mike is the baby of the bunch. So, he was my friend. Yeah, all of his.
No! Oh, I think it meant me. I'm thinking, no, I'm
that's what I was thinking too, and I was like, "How is that possible? Wow, you look really good."
So go ahead.
No, that was. I just wanted to make.
That wasn't a question. It was a statement.
No,
it's still interesting.
I mean, do you know? These people that own that restaurant? I do.
I totally do know the people at least, but it's nice that you have a connection. Now, have you talked to him? Have you ever talked to them about hauntings in the area?
No, and I discovered it too late where I just had the opportunity to kind of drop, Bethany's Home Sweet Haunted House. And he said, oh yeah, I know of it. When you come to visit, we'll have to go there together. So I have to plan a trip now. So, which I was already interested in doing. So it was perfect. So I do have a question. When did you realize that the house was first haunted?
So that has a two-parter. The first time I actually realized that the house was haunted when I did my final walkthrough. So we started at one end, worked our way to the end, to the front of the house. And in the last bedroom, I just looked at my real estate agent, who's also a really good friend, and my handyman. And I said, I don't like this room. There's a girl in the closet. And they just kind of looked at me like I was crazy. Now knowing what I know, I should have known probably sooner, because when I had my home inspection, my home inspector came out and was like, you don't want to buy this house. And I said, yes, I do. And he's like, no, you don't want to buy this house. It's too big, too old. I don't want to inspect it. And I was just like, dude, just do it. Because like 3 weeks earlier, he'd inspected an older, bigger house for me without any problems. And when I got up there to meet him after he did the inspection, The first thing he said to me was, "What if it's haunted?" And I said, "I don't care." And that was that. So probably should have known back then, but I didn't, and they hid from me until I did the final walkthrough.
Okay. We have a girl in the closet too, but for totally different reasons.
Disappointing.
I know. Sorry.
Let her out.
So what we're talking about is Bethany's home sweet haunted home in Jackson, California, correct? And
Correct.
Elsie, you and your husband are the owners of the property?
Correct. Although
Um,
he just went and spent the night for the first time ever this last weekend, and it's because I forced him to. So he's never really been to the house. He doesn't really know anything about it, technically on paper, but yeah, he doesn't know anything about it. But yeah, he just spent his first weekend there this last weekend.
what I don't know, and of course this podcast is called What We Don't Know, and there's a lot of things I don't know about this particular property here. Where does Bethany come from? I looked up and down your website.
Yeah.
I couldn't see anything that said Bethany. Maybe I just
Exactly,
missed
right?
it.
Isn't it
Yeah.
confusing? So that girl in the closet, the first spirit that I recognized, I had some paranormal investigators. They came out a couple of weeks later, and the first thing, different groups with different mediums came in. One of them walked in. The first thing she did is walked into that bedroom, came out and said, "I don't like that room. There's a girl in the closet." And I said, "I know." Well, throughout the investigation, the other woman told me that the girl in the closet's name was Bethany. But I don't know historically. I have no record of this girl historically. So I know the names of lots of other people who I have all over my website, but I know who they are historically, but I don't know who she is. And so she was the first name I had. I had to give the house a name, so I named it after her. I have some regrets. It's fine. It is what it is. But yeah, and to this day, I still don't know who she is.
You mentioned that you know some of the other folks that are historically attached to the home. What exactly is the history of the home?
It is the quintessential perfect haunt. So the house was built in 1878. The first owner was a woman. Back then, it was against the law for women to own property, and there was really only one reason for single women to own properties. It was a brothel. And then it became a saloon and gambling den and boarding house. And so it has had many lives with lots of energies. And that's one of the problems. So generally we can track down the owners of properties, but finding, the sex workers who work there or finding the boarders who live there is really difficult. So like, for example, there was a murder that happened in the house in 1935. And the only reason I know about that murder is because it happens to mention that it happened at Steve Tofinelli's spa. They call it a spa for some reason. And so that's the only reason why I know that this murder actually happened in the house, was because in the newspaper article, it happens to mention the owner of the house. So there's lots of crime. There's a couple of, different murders that we know of, but I also know that there's probably and random deaths, but there's a lot of things I don't know because of the transient nature of the people who were there.
I just want to know how much the hookers charged.
How would I know?
I don't know.
Not enough. Not enough.
Exactly.
That's not enough.
Especially for stinky miners, right?
What was your original intention with the home? To buy it to live in, to buy it for business, or?
Yeah, I bought it to be a boarding house, actually. So I bought the house in 2021, and at the time we were in an eviction moratorium, thanks to, because of the pandemic. And so I had a friend, I had a house that I was renting out, and the renter was buying their own house, and I had to decide what to do with, what to do. And at that point in time, I couldn't afford to pay the whole mortgage if the renter didn't, within eviction moratorium. So it was a really tenuous time to be a landlord. And so I was trying to figure out what to do. And so I ended up selling that house, and then I bought this house because I thought, well, at least if it's if I have some of the rooms rented out, I can afford to, budget, whereas I couldn't afford to pay a mortgage all by myself. So that was my original plan, was to make it a boarding house. But again, nobody ever told me it was haunted. And I didn't know until it was too late. And then I did start the house being a boarding house, and I got tenants. I told them it was haunted. They said they didn't care, and then they'd move out like 2 or 3 months later. Then I had to decide what should I do now, because then at that point in time it was like, okay, well, I can't keep trying to find people every 2-3 months to rent out a bedroom. So at that point in time I decided, well, I guess it's one thing to live with a ghost and it's another thing to stay for the weekend. And so that's when I turned it into the Airbnb.
So one of the things that I know is that from reading some of your stuff, and it's pretty much the same in a lot of different properties, that claim to be, that say that they're haunted, that the entities that are in there are not vicious. They're not combative. They're not going to hurt you or anything like that. If anything, they're friendly. They're friendly, or they try to spook you a little bit.
I mean, they might grab your butt. So some people might be freaked out by the fact that they do stuff like that. But I mean, it's just, they don't get me too, because that's what happens when you have a 150-year-old dude, around. But no, nothing malicious, nothing scary.
Well, it's the other thing is too, is that like you hear about these these properties too that are like legit haunted, and then you have like high profile cases that turn out to not be haunted, like say the Amityville Horror. That house in Amity, right? First of all, right. The house, the only thing that was the same as in the movie were the windows. That was it. There was no boat dock there. There was no. It was a residential street, in a parallel line of streets. It was nothing like it was in the movie. And matter of fact, the book by Jay Anson really was just fiction. There really wasn't a whole lot of anything. So I guess my question is that you have something like that and somebody, creates a really compelling story. Is that something that you would like to do with Bethany's home suite haunted house home? Get more people, interested to come in or whatever. I don't know what the
I'm not sure I understand what the question is. The question is that I want a lie to get people there.
Yeah.
No. Not even a little bit.
No, not lie to get there, but I guess why do high profile cases like that actually seem to be more successful than like Captain Grant's?
Yeah,
that we went to.
It's probably more the scare factor. Maybe, I don't know. Well, because this house, she said that the spirits are friendly, and it's just you go for fun, whereas some of the other hype, like the Conjuring house or something like that, like that's supposedly scary. So people are going for that experience.
And I always think it's about what you put into it, right? And the energy that you put in it as well. Like, so I've done a ton of investigations at prisons and jails, and I've never had a scary experience. Why? One, because I don't go in there looking for a scary experience. Two, I treat the people with respect everywhere I go, because they're people, right? They might be unalive people, but they're people. So I'm not going to talk trash to them and try to start fights with them. I get them we get a ton of activity. Why? Because I bring them gifts. I bring them cigarettes. I bring them booze. We play cards, and so I think you get what you put into it, for one. And like we have had, let's just say, a show where I was contacted by the location scout, blah, 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 blah. But I said no. And the reason why is because they are disrespectful. And I'm not about to let you come in and disrespect these spirits, because one, I'm close to them. They feel like family to me. But also, like, I wouldn't let you disrespect any of my friends either that are alive. And it's, again, no difference to me. And so, sure, if maybe that would put it on the map, but it's not really worth it to me. I feel like this house is so active that people who come there, they always have a good time, and they always keep coming back. So maybe it's going to be slower to get there, but once it gets there, it's definitely the most active place I've ever been to. And I've been to Waverly, Lake Shawnee. I've been to like places, you know, all over the United States that are haunted, and this is way more haunted. It kind of ruined me actually, because now I go to places and I get really disappointed when you have to sit around doing nothing all night long, because I'm so used to this house where you can try to be doing nothing and they're shutting doors and messing with the lights. So I've been ruined probably by the house, but I feel like in time it's going to get there without being fake, without the drama, without the nonsense. So I'll wait.
I think I know which show you're talking about, because that's one of the shows I don't like to watch, because I don't like how they are so like abusive with their language and how they try to provoke the spirits into coming out.
And just lie.
Yeah, and I don't agree with all that.
They're demonic. There's demons in every single place they go. I mean, it's just straight lying.
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
I would be pissed if you came into my house and said demons, like, and said that there's demons there.
I know.
And we even so had an example recently. We were doing an investigation at the courthouse in Jackson, and demons kept popping up, and like satanic kept popping up on whatever app this one guy who was on the tour was using. And we just don't even, we ignore it, because most of the time I think that if you get that kind of stuff, most of the time it's them trying to be scary, and it's not going to work with me. Sorry, I'm not scared. Have a nice day. Well, then we realized that one of the people in the groups, one of our friends, she was wearing a Chucky shirt and it had a pentagram in the background. And so I told her to go in.
Well,
bye-bye.
Uh-oh.
Are you there?
Did we lose her?
They didn't like what she was talking about.
But she went to the end of the block.
Uh-oh.
They're not dumb. I love her attitude.
Yeah, she's great.
I need to ask about the basement. I told you that story about our camera, right? And the spider. Dennis is like, check the camera at such and such a time. And I'm like, oh my God, it's a tarantula. He's all, Peggy. It's like this big. It's on the camera. Well, it's a tarantula. It's huge.
I'm watching it. And it's actually, this one looks white because of the way the light is reflecting off of it.
Are you there, Elsie?
I can see and hear you, but I don't think you can see and hear me yet.
I can hear you. We can't see you. Oh,
okay. Well, that's a start, I suppose. So now my phone is too hot and shut off because it's too hot.
Oh,
I wish you could see my face right now. Let's see here. So you could see how ridiculous I think that is. All right, come on, phone. I took my case off. I'm like holding it up to the air conditioning vent. Cool off, cool off. But seriously, the universe, what is it trying to do to me? Yeah, it won't turn on the camera because it's too hot. But at least it turned back on.
So it's funny. It's funny. Just after you dropped off, Peggy goes, "The ghost got her."
I said they didn't like what she was saying.
Telling you, they'd mess with me all the time. And the other day I was working on my website, and my husband walked into the room and it froze and it wiped off everything I had done. Like, I'd spent hours.
Oh my God.
And so I sent him away, got it back up, made sure to log in first before I started working on this widget. And he showed up again and it stopped working. I was like, you mother effer, go away. Just do not talk to me. Leave me alone. So I'm like, I don't know in my house. It's obviously in my house because they follow me. But they usually
ghosts in your personal residence also?
Yeah, now I do. I have a boyfriend who followed me.
I was gonna say, do they follow you from the B&B?
Yes. Mm-hmm, they do. Well, at least one does.
Interesting.
And the reason I know that it's him is because, so I don't investigate at my house, right? Because I'm not trying to encourage that kind of behavior. Just like I set boundaries with them. Like when I'm at the Bethany's, like I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to talk to you unless we're having a paranormal investigation. When we're having a paranormal investigation, bring it on. But if it's a Tuesday and I'm watching TV, leave me alone. And so, like, I set these boundaries because I feel like you have to set the boundaries. And
definitely.
yeah. But I have one that gives me prizes. Like, I'll think, oh, I'm leaving to go to Florida. I need to find my bathing suit. And then I'll wake up the next morning, my bathing suit will be on the top of my laundry basket. Home from Florida, I went back to back from Florida to Alaska. Big difference. And so I was like, oh, I should probably find my curling iron. And then the next morning, wake up, there's my curling iron in my laundry basket. Okay. So I have somebody who brings me stuff. My husband has somebody where he thinks, oh, I have that. And then he goes to find it and he can't find it. So the spirit that brings me things steals his things.
Mm-hmm.
And so he says he doesn't believe in ghosts, but then he recognized also that this happens all the time. Well, the house has a very, just to the point that even one of the families that lived there for 10 years, they came in and they're like, oh my God, it still smells the same. Well, I'll go up into my bedroom at night and it smells like the Jackson house. And so my husband will even go, he goes to bed before me. He'll go upstairs and he'll be like, oh, it smells like ghosts in here.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so I went on a trip to Indiana and
What does a ghost smell like?
well, it smelled like
Whatever
the
it
Jackson
wants
house.
to.
Yeah, it smells like
What's
the Jackson
that?
house. It
Oh.
smells like the house in Jackson for some reason. And so and again, he hasn't really been there. So it's a very distinct smell. I can't explain what it is. Wood, maybe like a pipe smell and old wood smell. And like, just, I don't know. It smells like an old house, but, and it's only in our bedroom. But yeah, so I was going on a trip to Indiana. We were going to investigate Jim Jones's childhood church, and then the Stone Mansion. So we're going to go investigate a couple places in Indiana with some friends that were out there. We met up there. And so I'm looking for, again, I bribed them, cigarettes, booze, all this stuff. So I'm looking for my lighter, can't find my lighter, ask my husband, do you know where the lighter is? He's like, I didn't touch your lighter. Go, change my clothes, pack my bag, take a red eye, get there, go to sleep, wake up the next morning, and my lighter's on my pillow.
Of course.
And so I was like, all right, somebody's following me, cool. And while we were at Jim Jones's church, I'm getting two answers. Like, so I'm using a flux, right? So on one side it's yes, it's green, and the other side it's red. And so for yes and no. And I'd ask the question, and then it'd say yes, and then it would say no, and then it would say no, and then it would say yes. Like at the same, like a second apart, it would go from one to the other with every question. And so I'm like, okay, I think there's two spirits here. So finally I was like, wait, did one of you follow me from, the house? And so that's when I started asking, wait, which one are you? And so I started going through some of the names of the spirits that I'm used to from the house and get Sam. And so I'm like, all right, it's Sam following me. Well, here's the thing. I don't have historical record of Sam. All we've been told, Maggie, the first owner, it was a brothel. Again, we have that established. But supposedly he was her boyfriend. And I don't know if it was before she got married, if he was just a client. I don't know. I don't really know the extent because, again, I can't find the legal documentation. I don't know this man's last name. But yeah, it was him that's following me. So yeah. So Sam follows me all over now.
Do you feel like he's like your guardian angel somehow? Like he's like your protector? He just likes to follow you around to make sure you're okay?
Yeah, so, I've never in my life, because I was never involved in paranormal before buying this house. So I've never in my life considered, like, past lives. Well, now, I have wondered if I'm related to the house some way, because when I saw the house, I had to buy it. I can't explain it any other way. Right. I absolutely had to have the house.
It's like almost fateful.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I said it's almost fateful. It's like
exactly.
Yeah, because you have like some sort of lost connection.
Yeah, and I've always said if I was alive during the gold rush, I would have been a madam. And that house is full of ghosts. Maggie is not one of them.
No.
Her husband is there. Her boyfriend is there. But she's not there. So now thinking about all of this, I'm like, oh, I wonder if I'm Maggie. If I'm reincarnated Maggie. In which case, would it make sense that her boyfriend is following me around?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
That's very insightful.
So yeah, and the house really does feel like home. I'm very connected to it. We have a good relationship. Like the house tells me when there's problems. I'll be like in the kitchen, and all of a sudden I'll get anxiety. I'm like, oh God, what's going on? Because I'm not an anxious person, and then I'll get a text message from the person renting it saying like, oh, I can't get into the lock, or so they'll tell me when, yeah, it'll give me anxiety for random things like things aren't working right, but they also mess with people. Hence my tenants moving out, because when you annoy me or if you're messy, the house doesn't like that and they screw with you.
Right.
And so, like a renter came on Christmas Day. He checked in. He showed up 2 hours early, and he didn't tell me until he got there. So he'd be like, he didn't say like, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to be there early." He just says like, "I'm here. Can you open the door?" And I was like, "I'm busy, sir, but okay," because I have to worry about reviews. And so I stopped what I was doing. Had to I was stuffing a turkey, so I had to get cleaned up just to open the door for this man, right? So I was kind of annoyed. Well, he went to his mom's house, who lived in town, and then the next day they decided to leave early because their kids were up screaming all night long and couldn't find his car keys anywhere. So I was like, well, do you want me to come help you find them? And he's like, no. So he ended up having to call a locksmith from Sacramento. It's about an hour from Sacramento, and it cost $600 because
Oh my gosh.
it's not a key. It's not a key. It's a whole remote. It's the whole thing, right?
One of those key fob things.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. So he got two since he was at it. So it cost him $600. He left, and I was like, I got him now. So I drove up there. The first thing I do, I'm a woman over, in my mid 40s. So the first thing I do when I get there is have to pee. I've driven an hour. And so I'm going to go to the bathroom. Well, this house was built before plumbing. So all of the bathrooms, all the plumbing is on the outside of the house, because literally the pipes are attached to the back of the house.
Right.
They're not internal because California, they won't freeze. It's fine. So I'm going to go back there to use the bathroom, and the room I usually sleep in, it's completely decorated for Christmas. There's a snowman stuffy on the dresser, and there is like an Elsa wand on its lap, and the wand is turned on and the lights are on. And so I go to turn it off and see the keys behind the stuffy.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez.
Oh wow.
That's pretty freaky.
It's not a room that they would have used for their children too. I'm sure they would have kept it in the huge master bed. So yeah, they definitely wouldn't have hid their keys on the back of this random dresser in this random room, but it's the room I sleep in and also on the way to the bathroom. So I felt like that was just a little too convenient. And I did have that wand many times, just like turn on while I was sitting there, just turn on randomly. And so, but yeah, so it's stuff like that. But yeah, he annoyed me. They screwed with him. So of course I didn't really tell them that. I just happily mailed them the keys like the nice Airbnb owner I am. But yeah, and we've had other situations like this where they'll hide people's stuff or mess with them. So
have you ever had people or that just said, we're out? Something happened and they went, oh, I got to get out of here, and they leave?
Yeah, I had to have a talk with the ghost last October, actually, because 2 bookings in a row, the people only stayed 15 minutes.
Wow.
So I was like, hey guys, you guys need to knock it off. I need to pay the mortgage. Like, we have to have that. We have to have those conversations sometimes. Even I had a long-term rent or a medium-term renter, and I had to have the conversation with them. You guys need to leave them alone, because they were only supposed to stay like 3 to 4 months. And once that was up, they started being weird with them, like moving the magnets on the fridge to cover their grandkids' faces.
Oh.
Yeah,
like,
I'd do
creepy,
that.
right? But I was like,
I'd
you
do
guys got to
that.
knock that off. Knock that off. That's not okay. Leave them alone. But so yeah, stuff like that.
It sounds like they're more of like pranksters than
100%.
anything.
They are that annoying uncle. Yeah.
we are talking.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we're talking to Elsie Lodde. She is the owner of Bethany's Home Suite Haunted Home in Jackson, California. It's a boarding house, bed and breakfast? How do you actually?
It's an Airbnb
It's
or
an Airbnb.
vacation rental.
Now, how? I mean, do you have long-term rentals or
So the
just
house
straight
is a
short-term?
seven. Yeah, the house is a 7-bedroom house, but where the old gambling den and bar was downstairs, there was like a living room, a bathroom, and 2 bedrooms. And so I just sealed off those doors and made that an apartment. So now it's a 4-bedroom plus a creepy doll room Airbnb, and then there's a 2-bedroom apartment that is rented by long-term renters.
So I
Downstairs is
do
a little
want.
bit less spooky than upstairs.
I do want to talk about the creepy doll room. I saw that on your website, Bethany's Home Suite Haunted Home.com. There's a 360-degree tour, and I saw that room and I was a little wigged out.
There's more dolls than this in there now. So actually, one of the spirits in that house. So most of them are really jovial, fun, friendly. There's one in that room that is not as much. She wants her space. She isn't super friendly, and so that was basically my way of keeping people out of her space, to give her her own space. I put the dolls in there, so most people just see the dolls, shut the door, and never go in that room. And so so she has her space to get away from people. Although actually sometimes she tells me that she doesn't like the dolls, and then I feel bad, but then I realize that she's just trying to manipulate me because she wants people to come in the room, because she is one that can influence people.
Me as a ghost.
Yeah, you just described Melissa.
It's
Wow.
clear to me that
that is my kindred spirit.
Yeah, she was probably a sex worker, and
Melissa was not a sex worker.
That we know of.
Just to be clear, if we're talking,
we lock ourselves in that room and say, "Don't bug us."
In this life.
So yeah, so she influences women to want to have like really aggressive, mean sex, not just like to be kinky, but like choke that dude and or jump that young guy. Like, so she's just very overly sexual.
That is not Melissa.
Yeah, and so well, maybe if you go there,
it's Peggy, but it's not Melissa. I mean,
it's not cheating, right? So it's fine. But yeah, so she can be weird, and therefore I just don't think people should hang out with her. So
yeah,
I put
and
dolls
creepy
in there
dolls,
and didn't put a bed in there. I don't. Yeah, I'm just. Again, she's not dangerous. She's not any of these things. It's just that's not a great energy that I feel like people like. It's not beneficial to your stay, like to hang out with her too much. So like, hang out with the ones that want to party and have fun, like instead.
I was going to ask before, and I'm glad you brought up the doll room and that particular spirit. But is there a general preference of who these pranksters like, male or females? Do they mess with one gender more than the other?
Oh, well, they definitely like women better, for sure. So I guess by that token, they mess with men more. Now, I don't know if that is because oftentimes when men stay in the house, oftentimes they're construction workers and they're slobs, and they don't appreciate that because, yeah, they definitely have messed with a lot of the worker groups who come through there. But in the same sense, they tend to leave men alone more too. So it just depends. But so Fred, he grabs women's butts, and his particular type is chubby brunette. He likes chubby brunettes.
Fred.
Not that he won't grab a skinny blonde's butt, but chubby brunettes are his thing.
Well, you got to have a little junk in the trunk.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's go, Fred.
Yeah,
exactly. Let's go, Fred.
He'd be all over you. But yeah, so that's his type, right? And so, but yeah, they definitely enjoy women more than they enjoy men. They're more likely to participate. Like when we've had paranormal investigations where it's like 2 women that are like 55 years old, they don't really participate so much. And I don't know if that's an ageism thing or if it's just an energy thing. Like if it's a bunch of 55-year-old women who are having a good time and like laughing and joking, then they want to be involved. But if you're just like low energy, they're really not they're not interested, but they're definitely much more interested in women.
That's pretty cool, though.
I know. We might have to take a trip out there.
Yeah, that is really right. First of all, the house is beautiful.
Thanks.
It's absolutely beautiful, and I hope people check it out.
Definitely.
We get there. What I really hope is that nobody gets scared to the point where they don't check it out. But
Well,
how
it
can you
sounds like
not?
It's more fun than
As
long as you treat the ghosts with respect.
Yeah.
Should be more fun than scary.
Maybe
So
I
how
set
do they?
the bar too high for them, which might be the problem. Like in the basement, I have a whole shrine in the basement for them: cigarettes, booze, cards, jewelry, fancy handkerchiefs, books, like from their time periods. Like all sorts of stuff. I have like a whole shelf full of nothing but different prizes I've bought them. So I think I set the bar pretty high for them.
Peggy, didn't you have a question about the basement?
I want to know more about the basement.
So the basement's an interesting place. I mean, for sure. They bootlegged for a long time, and so that's where they would keep the booze. And apparently, there was a door that went into the unfinished part of the basement from what would have been the bar, the gambling hall down in the basement. Because there's like
a speakeasy
there's finished
kind of
basement
thing,
and there's unfinished basement. And so, so there was a door from to the unfinished part of the basement, which is where they probably would have stored their booze. There was also hidey holes in there where they probably stole gold or hid gold and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because Steve, who owned the house for 60 years, he went to jail twice for conspiracy to sell stolen gold to the government. Usually the charge would have been for like a miner who stole gold and then used it. But it was the fact that they were taking stolen gold and selling it. Like they knew it was stolen, but they got it for gambling, for boarding, for bootlegging from the miners. Mm-hmm. And then they turned around and sold it to the mint. So he would have, like, the second time was in 1939. There were 6 of them, and it would have been equivalent to almost $7 million today.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm sure these hidey holes, there were several of them at the time. One I can't find, so I don't know what happened to it. I was told about it, but I haven't been able to locate it. But they would have been used for storing all that gold that they were bringing in with all these things, But yeah, so the basement,
right,
the unfinished part of the basement, Steve still hangs out in that part of the basement. And I think we have a portal in the basement. And so I think he hangs out next to the portal, like he's the bouncer. He gets to decide if the spirits get to come in or not.
Oh.
So he doesn't leave the basement.
Gotcha.
So other spirits are in a different part of the house, and like Fred the ass grabber, he moves all over.
Fred the ass grabber?
Yeah, but Steve, he does not leave that basement.
Has he grabbed your ass, Elsie? Has he grabbed your ass?
He has not.
Oh.
I don't know if
I'm sorry, I guess. I don't know.
You tell him
they don't mess with her.
No. No, so they'll touch my arms like nicely, like they'll touch me nicely, but they're nothing like that. At the courthouse, I actually had my butt grabbed, so now I know what that feels like, because I've been told by tons of women unrelated to one another, like, oh my God, it just feels like something just grabbed my ass.
That was the bailiff.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what that feels like. And so I just recently actually went into the courthouse and had my butt grabbed. And so I also say now I have a boyfriend at the courthouse too. So I've got a couple of different ghost boyfriends, but I think he doesn't come to my house. That's all that matters. I can only have one at my house.
Oh my.
Now when like if people want to get in touch with you to find out about the property other than the website, or if they want to stay in Bethany's home suite haunted home, is there a certain way they get in touch with you? Do they talk to Fred the ass grabber? What do they do?
They could try. I mean, a seance seems like a hard way to go about it, though. So we're on all the social media. So Bethany's Home Sweet Haunted Home. On all the social medias. So you can reach me there. But the house is listed on Airbnb. It's on VRBO. It's on Booking.com. So Expedia. You can find it anywhere. And again, it's in Jackson, California, which is about an hour outside of Sacramento and about just over 2 hours outside of San Francisco.
It sounds like a fun haunted house.
It is. Yeah.
You know,
definitely.
nothing that you'd get wigged out on. Just seems like it would be like you're gonna go there and like let's party.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to consider like why people haunt things. Like, why don't people move on? Why
Right.
do they choose not to move on? And so I think that lends to why this house is so haunted, right? Because I
Yeah.
feel like these spirits don't move on because they were maybe a little too lively in life, and now they're afraid of repercussions.
Right.
So, you know, again, sex work, partying, bootlegging, gambling. There were some questionable deaths. So these were some people that knew how to have fun, but also there was some shady stuff going on. And so I think that they're afraid of judgment. And so they don't move on, and they're still here, but like they're still, just because they're dead doesn't mean they became born grandparents, right? Like
Yeah.
they're still those bootleggers, they're still those gamblers, they're still those sex workers, they're still all of what they were. And of course, like it's kind of, for me, as much as I will have the conversation with them, like morality's changed since they were alive. And so I feel like a lot of the things that maybe hold them back now aren't that big of a deal, you know? So
Mhm.
like, for example, Steve was married. No, he wasn't. When the first time he got arrested and went to Leavenworth, supposedly he was married. He wasn't. They used a fake name, got married later. His oldest daughter was born in 1933, but he wasn't divorced from the first wife until 1935. But apparently the oldest daughter's mom lived next door. And actually, I have no record of them ever getting married, but they were together for the rest of their lives. So, again, there might have been some judgment in the 30s about having babies out of wedlock, or, you know, this sort of lifestyle, cheating on your wife. But
Oh,
again,
definitely.
like nowadays, it's like, you know, people don't get married and have kids all the time. It's totally fine. And drinking alcohol or making alcohol, like, who cares? You know, gambling, who cares? Like,
Yep.
Jackson is
Right.
still the main industry for Jackson is gambling. We have a Jackson Rancheria. And then there's also another reservation, well, even though it's owned by the Hilton, there's another gambling hotel nearby too. So gambling is still a huge part of the town. Now, prostitution and gambling were still going on openly in town until the 50s when the state came in and shut it down. It's a Wild West town, right? It was like wild. But like, so a lot of the things that keep them trapped there, like, I think sex works is work. Like, I don't think there should be judgment to that, right? Women had
Mhm.
to do what women had to do. They still have to do what they still have to do. And so, you know, but I think, yeah, there's a lot of judgment that goes with those things, especially back then, that we just don't have now. But I think that that's probably what keeps them there, you know?
Yeah.
So, but that
Possible.
they were just partiers, and so they do enjoy that.
So I think that's something we could talk about next time. You know, getting more into that and that history, and you know, because I don't think we got too much into the the sex worker stuff and the brothel and all that. And there's a lot of stuff that's on the website.
Yeah.
There's a lot of history there, so you can definitely learn a lot just by reading the website. And that's what I mean. I couldn't find anything about Bethany. That's why I had to ask that
Yeah.
right about.
We were wondering.
Because what I have is on paper, provable, not I heard this, I was told that. I want proof that these things exist, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I only have historical documentation that I was able to actually acquire. Now, again, like with Steve, he told us his name was Steve. And at that time, his legal name's Stefano. So I didn't know who Steve was. And then I found out, oh, he went by Steve. And that's when I was able to find all of those records with all of his criminal activity and stuff like that. But yeah, it's definitely, I want proof, I want facts, and I don't know who she is. So I really wish I knew more about her. I mean, psychics all have different things to say, of course.
Right.
But we haven't been able to put a thumb on who she actually was. And again, if she was a sex worker, she probably wasn't important enough to keep record of, because married women were barely important enough to keep record of. When Maggie died, I don't know what she died of. Why? Because all I know is the wife of William Holder died. That's all I know. Because she was unimportant as a human.
Exactly.
And so, of course, those records of who this young woman would have been, I don't know if I'll ever be able to find them.
Right.
Peggy, do you have anything else?
No, I'm my brain is whirling, but I'm just thinking about all of the characters and the descriptions and the things you told us about their personalities.
I know, it really is.
And I just keep looking at the picture of the home and, imagining what it's like, you know what I mean, with all those personalities and just how incredible that is. And I have to tell you that I love your attitude. I love the respect that you have for them. And I just think that's really cool. It's a really good highlight.
Oh, thanks. One thing when I always love it when people actually look at the pictures, especially of the people that we're talking about, right? So when I tell you that Fred likes to grab women's butts and you guys look at a picture of Fred, does that track for you? Does he look like the kind of guy who'd be grabbing women's butts?
Well,
he looks like a butt grabber.
Uh-huh. So I always love showing those pictures because I'm always like, oh yeah, this is the guy, and everybody's like, oh yeah, that looks like what you would expect, 100%. So and he died in the late 70s. His daughter actually just came by last weekend. I just met her, and I was so excited to meet part of the family that's still alive. And so we had a nice honest conversation about her parents and stuff. And she was not surprised. She was not surprised at all that I said that he keeps grabbing women's butts.
That's funny.
All right, Elsie, thank you so much. And I think we still have plenty to talk about for next time. We'll come back and run this through again.
Yeah, I'll promise to get internet working stuff in the house. Well, I was going to stay at work, but then it was like, no, it's too late. I don't want to be at work until 7 o'clock at night. And now I'm like, oh, I should have stayed at work.
All right. So that is Elsie Lodde from Bethany's Home Sweet Haunted Home in Jackson, California. And you can go visit Peggy's friend's restaurant.
Rosebud Cafe.
There you go.
It's so good.
Just over there
so
too.
Good.
Anyway, Elsie, thank you very much. We should give the website one more time, Bethany's Home Sweet Haunted Home.com.
Got it.
You can reach out to Elsie that way too. So, all right, Elsie, thanks so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
It was great talking to you, and look forward to talking to you again.
So that was a pretty wild ride, wasn't it?
That was a wild ride.
I am just needing to connect with Fred. Yeah.
Because you think he's cool or you need your ass grabbed?
Absolutely 100% both. 100% both.
So Elsie was cool, wasn't she? I mean, she was very straightforward. She's funny and very entertaining.
Yeah. And I know I said this to her during the show, but it's her respect for them is just so cool.
Yeah.
Like the discussion of setting up, gifts for them in the basement. It's like, who does
What'd
that?
you get out of that, Melissa? Gifts. The gifts was really cool. What did you think?
I don't know. I just find it refreshing.
Yeah.
To not have, this scary, knock your socks off
haunted bed and breakfast,
story.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just cool.
It's just, it just sounds like a good time, like a fun time.
You got people hiding shit on you, and you got somebody grabbing your ass, and it's like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, but they also bring her things.
They bring her things.
Yeah.
So
there's a bootlegger down there. You could probably get some drinks.
What's on Cinemax tonight, right? Yeah. They're hanging out.
Yep.
Peggy, thank you so much.
Good.
We got another one coming up soon.
We absolutely do.
Follow us on socials and get us wherever you can download your podcasts. Make sure you find us. And if you don't know, that's okay, because we'll be talking about what we don't know as well.
We don't know nothing.
We don't. All I know is that Fred grabs us.